Hey everyone, hey, welcome. Good morning. It is a little before 10 a.m. I've just spent the morning responding to emails and getting set up for an afternoon meeting at noon. Um, but I wanted to start off the week, and I'll always try to start off the week this way, with a little bit of a module overview alongside some tips to be successful in the module and also to help you kind of understand um, what you need to do and how you want to move forward in the course. So welcome to week one. Let's dive in. My intention is always to make these 10 minutes or less, so that way I don't take too much of your time because we've got a lot of things to read and we've got a lot of things to think about, and you need time to do that. So let's dive in here. Okay, so you should be seeing my screen, and we're going to get out of that. And we are here within our course. So in English 220, this should look, this what the homepage should look like to you right here. We're not viewing this as a student yet, but we will here within modules. So the majority of our course is handled through the things that we need to work through within modules. And in module one, we start off, there's this act with integrity pledge. It's just something I want you to be aware of and familiar with. It's really just a pledge stating that, hey, like the work that I'm going to do in this class will be my own, and it will be my own because I understand that using someone else's language, someone else's thoughts, or having those thoughts generated for me ultimately do not serve me as a college educated individual, and shortchanges your learning process that you're paying for. So it's just a pledge that you're going to submit your own work. Um, and then we have these learning goals, checklists, learning materials, and we want to try to move through these in the same way that they're set up for us. So this week, our focus is on really ancient, really old literature, and we're thinking about the ways in which those oral traditions were eventually, they were passed down generation by generation. They were just telling these stories. And then eventually they were written down and recorded for us. And we're able to, read stories from, literally thousands of years ago today in our world literature course. So that sets up the learning goals for the module. And then we move here into a type of checklist. I need to delete that, sorry. A checklist and a setup for us to think about managing our time in. So we have these estimated times. Now, my opinion, as I have moved through the course, is that these times are a little generous. So if we broke this down for exactly how long the course developers thought it would take us to move through this, and to kind of look behind the screen a little bit, Ivy Online courses are developed by subject matter experts and the instructional design team. So I did not build this course. I commented on the building of this course as a supervisor of the section of the course and of all of Ivy Online courses, but I didn't build it. Whenever I'm teaching it now, I get to select things as the instructor, and that's what this is, all of this stuff. These instructor things pop up for me to edit out and change, which I have throughout the course, and as reminders. And I get to then kind of make the course my own based on some of the decisions that I want to make for this section, this term. And that's how I'm able to, and all faculty are able to exert some of their academic freedom while also having a course that is largely the same for every student. So that way the quality of the course is consistent. That's a little behind the curtain thing. But if we looked at this, that's 1 hour. Now we're at 2.5, 3 hours, 7 to 9 hours, 9 to 12 hours total, another this. So we're looking at somewhere between like 10 to 12 plus hours of material to move through here. I don't think it will take you that long to do this. In fact, I think that for most weeks, you are going to be able to move through our course materials in about 6 hours, I think. But that is the time that you want to still consider that it might end up taking you this long if you get really stuck or you get really distracted or you feel like you need to reread things that of course you want to carve out at least 6 hours of your week because that's what you would have in class if we had to meet in class, 6 hours. But of course, if we were meeting in class, you'd have work to do outside of class. And so think about how you're going to budget at minimum 6 hours to just focus on our course. And I'll give you some study strategies for how to use those 6 hours the most effectively. But then understand that it could take you longer, and that's what this is setting us up for. All right. Now let's go into the learning materials, and then this is the first part of what I really want to focus on today to help you as we move into module one. So you're going to have these setups to read, right? It's going to say read, and then it'll be like, hey, this is on a web page. So you're going to click this, it's going to open it up, and you're going to be able to read that there. This is a web page, etc. But then eventually we get down to our ebook. And so I want to show you the core part of Module 1's overview for me to give to you today is that how to use our textbook well. So our textbook is over here. When you click on that, it's going to take you to this space. And then you can click Read Now, which is going to open this up for us. And then here we are. You're going to land on this page. And what you can do then is look to see, okay, what am I reading? I need to read the front matter and story of Gilgamesh, which is from pages A90 to 144. So this is just the start here, and it's 54 total pages. So whenever I'm in the ebook, I can go over here and I can just start to scroll down until we get to the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is right here on page A90. So written sometime between 1900 and 250 BCE, roughly, and all of the various translations that have come through since then. And so we have this text here, and you can see at the bottom right, it says A90, and we know we need to read through this. And so as we start to scroll down, you can see that the page numbers start to move with us as well, right? A90, A91, etc. And so this is the front matter. And then we need to click next, and that's going to take us to the start of this big epic story written in verse form that will start to move through all these various tablets that were recorded for us so long ago. And we start to move through this, and you can see as we move through the pages down here at the bottom right are continuing to move. And this ends up being a lot of text, right? We're reading through this story and we're trying to enjoy it. And the textbook has some tools to help us out. The textbook says you're going to read all of this stuff, and we know that you're going to need to use this information for some work later. So we want to give you some tips or some tools to help you do that. So up here in the top right, we have highlights, notes, bookmarks, flashcards, etc. And when we click on that, it kind of tells us that, gives us these different tools for how to do things. Like we can highlight text, we can change colors, we can add bookmarks, we can start to add flashcards if we wanted. And the way that looks here is like, let's say I really like this line. I can highlight it by holding left click and then look. Now I'm going to be able to, I'm going to be able to add a note to it. It will link me to a Wikipedia something if I want to, I guess, create a flashcard about it or have it read the work aloud to me. But I can make a little color. And now look, now it's this blue color and it's going to persist and look like that just for me whenever, on my unique part of the text. And so let's move this back over here. With the table of contents, we can open that or close it. So if I want to open, I can move down here and I can say, oh, I like that a lot. I'm gonna actually highlight it in yellow, etc. It's just a nice little nice little annotation tool for us. And why are annotation tools important? Well, let's go back to our modules. We have in a literature course, fundamentally, we kind of get an idea of what it is we're trying to read and the learning goals around it. And then we start to read some literature. In this case, some older literature that, really serves as the foundation for a lot of Western and Eastern literary traditions. And so from the reading, as we move through those learning materials, we can see that we're going to have some quizzes and things around it. And so, they're going to ask us questions about that reading. That's kind of a reading check. And we know that if we get down here for the biggest assignment of the week, due on January 18th, we have an annotating the text literature assignment. And so what this does is it asks us to read work, and as we read, we start to write little brief summaries of what we're reading. And we start to annotate the text to show me that you are engaging with the literature. So, one of the core differences between passive and active reading will be annotation. And so when we read passively, like if we really like to read at home, maybe we read 10 pages before we go to bed as like a story to help us calm down and we fall asleep. And we're just reading it and falling asleep. That's very passive reading. And there's nothing wrong with passive reading. Passive reading's great. I passively read things all the time. But whenever we need to read things and engage with them for an assignment, for a work project, or what have you, we want to move toward more active reading. And through annotation, we can do that. And so to annotate means to mark up. And so that's where some of the highlighting, etc., helps us whenever we're moving through the text. We can even add like notes to ourselves, right? We can add a note here. We can like, this is neat, or whatever our note might be. Um, for us to help us. But you know, beyond that, you can see here that as you read or reread some text this week, you need to write some brief summaries of that work, of those text, stopping every couple pages to write what you can summarize from what you have just read. And so you're thinking of writing like one, two, or three sentences, um, and to start adding questions, etc., starting to just think and question the text. And you'll have some vocabulary terms that you'll learn earlier in the week that might help you as you engage with it. And this is where I love Google Docs. Okay. So using Google Docs, which is free for us, and a great tool to use, I might read let's see, I'm on page 898. I might read from A98 to A100 and think, okay, what did I just read? And I'll type two sentences here and note that, or I'll put from, A98 to 100, and then here is a short two sentences about what I read there, and then 100 to 103, and here is another short sentence or two. And I'll just move through that. And what will happen is after I have read through the text, now I have all of these notes for me, all these annotations come back, all these kind of summarized ideas of what's happened. Or maybe it's something related to a question. Hey, on page 103 through 106, why is this character doing a certain thing? Right? It's working to engage with the text. And whenever we do that, we're going to remember more of the text. And when we remember more of the text, we are going to be able to discuss it better, and we're going to just incorporate that text into our knowledge more effectively. And so the way this will be scored, I'll want to see your annotations. So I'm going to want to see that Google Doc, or the copy of your Microsoft Word document, or whatever it is you're using to annotate, a screenshot of annotation that you might be doing in a notebook, right? How are you annotating it? I'm going to want to see screenshots of what you're doing inside of your text. And to make a screenshot, at least on my laptop, I click print screen, and then it gives me some uh, screenshot options. But you should look to see how you can get screenshots with how you're engaging with the text. Providing summaries of the text, right? So whenever I see that document, I'm seeing those short summaries come through, and then your interaction, your engagement, your questioning. the connections that you're making, et cetera, your analysis. So the things you're moving beyond the way you're moving deeper into engaging with the text itself. I know that we're at 10 minutes or beyond or very close, and so I apologize for that. I will make these shorter as we move forward, but this is some of the lecture support that I want to provide you as we just get going. And so I hope that this is helpful, some engagement, some understanding of how to use these various tools. And I hope that you enjoy. I guess I can leave, but maybe I can. Can I move this box further? There we go. I can stop sharing. Come back here. Boom. Um, I hope that you enjoy some of the reading this week. We're going to be reading the Epic of Gilgamesh, of course, which is so foundational to our literature today, and a story that maybe some of you are aware of, but if you're not, you're in for a treat, and something that will just be very good to have read and to have engaged with. I'm excited to go back through it again. I teach this class about once every year, once every 2 or 3 years. It's been about a year and a half since I've taught this course. So I like to go back through and read through things again. If you have questions as you start to move through and you start to engage with the module, don't hesitate to reach out to me through email. I check my email every day and will respond to you within 24 hours, Monday through Friday, no matter what. On the weekend, I don't check my email. I try to disengage from screens. But remember, most of our work is due on Thursdays, so you need to try to kind of squeeze in your reading Monday through Thursday so you can create discussion posts and things like that. That's going to be the rhythm of our course. And then we have usually Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday. Things are due on Monday, so that way if you have a question over the weekend, I can respond to you on Monday morning before I make these videos, and can help you finish out whatever assignment you might be working on. In this case, it's an annotation assignment, and so you want to um, uh, you'll be annotating throughout the term. So this is just us getting started and moving through with that. Okay, apologies again for the longer video. I appreciate you all. Looking forward to this semester. Happy reading this week. Make that schedule and try to follow it as best you can. Okay, bye-bye.